Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm David Sponheim with Sarah, and I am the American Original. And that's right. And we are average Americans just making dinner for Thanksgiving under $20. Welcome. This is a cooking show that we do every year annually. This is 2019, so we're doing this amazing Foster Farms hormone-free, steroid-free turkey. And Sarah's just looking at it right now. We're gonna probably cut open the outside of it with a little knife. I guess.
Do you want some hot water or something? That's what I like to do. But
okay. Yeah, whatever you want to do.
But I forgot to heat some up.
You like to put hot water in the center, right?
Yeah, and I usually like heat it up in the microwave. But
well, we can't really use a microwave, so let's just do a little stovetop heating. I don't mind heating a little over here. If you don't mind.
All right, that sounds good.
And if we don't need it, we might as well use it for broth or something.
Okay, we got the.
Let's go ahead and start that up with some filtered water.
Just here, I'm gonna actually turn on this camera, and they can just see the sink.
Okay, great.
You want to turn on the camera first?
Yeah, coming up. We've got the camera coming on. Go ahead and fill that up while I'm.
Well, here, I'll hold this, and you can turn on the camera.
All right, sounds good. We're turning on the new wide-angle camera. There we go.
All right, there we go. So. I'm just going to heat up a little bit of water. It doesn't need to be very much, but it's going to go down into the center of the turkey when I open it up. So there we go.
Is that enough for you?
Yeah, it doesn't need to be very much.
Okay. So, yeah, we've got everything all set up for today. We've got, I picked up the turkey for $13, and that was pretty good. 13 pounds, 99 cents a pound at Costco. And it's pretty well made. I mean, it's not a
traditional Foster Farms.
Yeah, traditional Foster Farms. Looks like a hen. I don't know. I got the impression it was a hen, but let me get that up for you.
Most of them are.
Yeah. Well, occasionally you get some toms, and they tend to be a little tougher. But this looked like a plump hen to me, so get a sharper knife there. And the goal really is to clip the top there and open up the plastic, and then usually you have some freezing inside after a couple days of sitting in the refrigerator. It doesn't always get thawed, so Sarah's heating up some water, and we got that going on. So we've got a lot of time here, a couple hours to prep turkey.
It's going to take 3.5 hours to actually cook the turkey. Yep. This size, so
at about 300 degrees, 350 degrees.
325
yeah.
Or yeah.
And yeah.
My friend just emailed me this morning. She said something about the turkey that she was cooking. Help! It's dark on the top, but the legs haven't crisped up. And what's your advice? And so one of the things I told her that we do is that David and I, when we start, we cook it with the breast side down, and then. See, you can even see it's still frozen there.
Oh my gosh, it's still rock solid in there. Yeah, nice. So she needs the hot water to get that intersection out.
Yep, because I'm not putting my hand in solid ice.
No, I mean, in fact, if you let it sit for 4 days in the refrigerator, but I only bought this 2 days ago, so it didn't have enough time to really defrost in the refrigerator. And I set it on the counter last night thinking it might defrost, but no.
But it wasn't that warm.
We had a 32-degree night last night, which was...
Oh, that's true. We didn't put it outside, so it was warm.
Yeah, well, we had to run our hot water last night because the whole country is hit with this ice spell, but we're getting the best weather possible in the Northwest.
Yeah, you were just saying something like the government put out a don't travel warning.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you mind if I don't want to show my whole neighborhood, but maybe just out this window. How beautiful and clear the day is today.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, it is sunny skies today. See that?
Crisp blue right there.
Beautiful blue skies today. Yeah.
And we have a beautiful view of the mountains. You can't really see it in the background because the lens is a little too
bright light.
Yeah, backlit.
But it's pretty cool. All right, let me push this down a little bit. So there is a turkey. I just put it in the sink, and then this is our water filtration system right here.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna, I'm gonna rinse it off, kind of get off all any of the, make sure, get anything off when it was sitting in the processing plant. Here, pre-rinsing the turkey.
That's good.
Take off a little feather.
Little feather came off. That's cute.
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
Let me rinse this off. No, yeah.
Oh, let me get down there and get that
Sorry.
unplugged. No problem.
Oh god, that is so cold, that ice.
Yeah, I bet.
I might run a little of this water on it just to break
Sure,
this
yeah.
ice off.
We'll get a little water in there, or tap water going.
I'll do it first with the tap water, and then I'll come in with that hot water.
Yeah, let's just leave it for now, because I think once the hot water gets in there, it'll melt down. If we use too much of the reverse osmosis water for the day, we won't have any reverse osmosis water, because it takes about 2 hours for the tank to push the water out, and then it goes down to a trickle, and then we have nothing.
Okay,
So-
now I'm going to wash my hands.
So one of the things we do in the garlic stage is we put garlic injected into the sidewalls of the turkey, and we made this garlic in our yard.
Grew it.
We grew it. Nature grew it, but I'm going to go ahead and put some garlic cloves out, and I'm going to just peel them while I talk to everybody.
Okay. Meanwhile, I'm also getting the.
Toast.
See, you can see I'm washing my hands there.
Yeah, let me get you a paper towel.
After you take from touching raw turkey to.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want me to show you doing your?
No, I don't want anything done. No. I don't want anything near my camera near me, because people look at my feet all the time. And
I know you have beautiful feet. He does walk around barefoot.
well, I've Native American in my past, so.
Okay, over here, what we have going on is toast. There, you got a really good close up of the toast.
Oh, right in the toaster. That's
In the
pretty cool.
toaster, exactly.
No, there's a misnomer about Thanksgiving that many people don't realize, that the original Pilgrim story was just a lie fed to us. And for many people who don't realize it, the Pilgrims and the Indians didn't really get along very well.
Well, and the whole Thanksgiving thing, the term Thanksgiving was they were giving thanks for winning the war against. There was many Thanksgivings. It wasn't just the first Thanksgiving, and Thanksgivings often came after they won a battle against the Native Americans. Very sad history indeed.
Yeah.
Maybe what we want to put this over on this side,
Sure.
because that's where actually the cooking is. It's underneath.
Okay.
See, there's the.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Wherever you want to put the camera. It's
Yeah.
great.
That way, yeah, you can do your talking thing over there. So we were using this organic whole wheat multi-grain bread, and we're toasting that up, and that's going to be the foundation for David's homemade stuffing.
Yeah. And it's a lot cheaper to, buy a loaf of bread for $3 that's organic and whole grain and multigrain than to get the crouton packages or whatever the heck they do that are full of salt. I mean, they're really, really salty, whereas bread is half the salt. And you're getting real whole grains, which are better for people than, these are the simple carbs of bleached wheat or whatever the heck they put in there. This is real wheat. This is organic wheat, non-GMO wheat. Whereas you don't know what you're getting nowadays when you get croutons.
Can we go get some parsley or anything from the garden? Or
I'll go get that. I was going to get that outside. If you want to get the onion and start peeling that, that's right over there.
Got it.
We got some celery and onion, and what we usually do is once we get the neck of the turkey out, we start boiling that to make our chicken broth, or our turkey broth in this case. Or we can buy extra turkey broth, but to save money, you could actually boil the neck and the gizzards, make your own turkey broth, which goes in the stuffing. And the stuffing is the big deal. That's the part
That's David's favorite dish.
Yeah. And I'm actually inclined to make really natural stuffing. I didn't even get sausage this year. I got pork loin, and I marinated the pork loin overnight. I'll show you that in a little bit. I'm going to be cutting that up and dicing the pork loin. Very tender and very lean. So there's not a lot of fat in the stuffing this time. And I pulled this fat already. I cut that off. So it's just marinating right now in a organic jelly pear juice mix, because we had pears this year, and we had
pears from our own pear tree, by the way.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool, pretty tasty.
we had a bushel of pears, and we still have a lot of pears mashed up in the freezer and ready to eat. Pear sauce, and it's very naturally sugary. I mean, this pear sauce is super sweet. So the pork will have a little sweetness to it, which I like, and I put rosemary in it. So rosemary is a good complement with pork, and the complement of pork in the turkey adds to the dimension of the dinner, so the taste dimension that you're looking for. So a lot of people have different ways of making turkey. There's a couple recipes out there involving lemon in the turkey, and I'm not going to do that. Although that's a great way of getting a unique taste, it's not something I really want a lemon rind. I don't want a lemon rind when I'm eating.
Yeah.
It sounds really good, but I just don't. Putting the lemon rind under the skin and then eating the turkey sounds really good. I just don't think I'm going to do it. But that's an option. Garlic is my favorite, and injecting the garlic in the turkey so that it cooks with the garlic in, melting the garlic in around it. And it's mouth-watering when you eat it.
Oh, it's so good.
It's really
if you're
good.
a garlic fan, that's the best way.
I'm halfway through this bulb here. I've got at least 8 to 10 cloves that you'll need. If they're big cloves, 8 will definitely do. And you want to cut them in half, and I'll show you how to inject the turkey once we get the neck out. But that's a little bit later. Meanwhile, I'm going to show you how to get rid of the garlic smell on your fingers when you get done with what I just did. And this
That's what this knife is still good for. Here you go.
Yeah, here, I'll show you.
You want me to
Hold the camera over the water and
just a sec. There we go. Okay.
yeah, and just take it like that and rub your fingers over the knife like this.
But not the sharp edge, obviously.
Not the sharp edge, yeah, just the
edge.
dull edge. And I'm actually getting rid of all the garlic smell. There's something about the metal. This stainless steel takes away the garlic smell completely.
But make
from your
sure
hands.
when you use a knife to cut garlic that you actually wash off the knife afterwards, because
Yeah.
even though it takes it off your hands, it still lingers there. And the worst thing is when you cut up garlic with a knife and then don't wash it off and then cut up watermelon with the knife. Ugh.
Oh yeah, then you have garlic smell and
Garlic watermelon is not good.
That happened one year. That's why Sarah remembers it.
Oh,
I
at
remember
least
that.
once.
Once or twice, yeah. So we've been very blessed to have a wonderfully fun show for the past 11 years, and we've had so many people come into our show over the
What do you want
years.
to use for the garlic? Do you want to use this knife or a different?
Oh, you got that out. Great. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely using these.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna pull that back. So,
What?
well, I'm just gonna set it up here because I don't want it in the way. We just
Okay.
need one knife, really.
Well, you might want a knife and I might want a knife.
No, I think I'm good.
Or maybe I want a bigger knife.
Oh, I don't know. That's a perfect knife. It's got the right leverage. The popularity of our show has been overwhelming. And as you know, we're censored pretty hard. And I think the reason why we're censored is because we are so popular. And the people who are in power in our country are afraid that we'll take off and we'll be this national hit. And we've been a worldwide hit because of our viewership around the world, watching our repeated shows on UHF. And I understand people are watching our old shows too. And we have over 30,000 hours of broadcasting under our belt, which is really unusual. And the topics are usually very different. The format's very similar. I mean, we bring in links from everybody, and then we put them out there for everyone to look at and talk about them, commentary and whatnot. You don't get that cross-section of information gathering from the mainstream media. They're very stifled. They tell you what to think. We let you guys explore ideas of different nature. And me more than Sarah, because I take on even conspiracy theory issues, which she doesn't want to discuss, which is fine. And people don't have to agree on their perception of the world. We just have to agree on how to fix it. And that's been the thrust of my show, is coming up with answers. And Sarah and I wrote a book called Hybrid Capitalism, which gives people a clue as to how to fix this country. It's a fairly easy read. And for 99 cents, you can download it at our website in the store. Or you can get a hard copy, a paperback. Anyway, so the turkey concept has been an evolution in my family for the past 60 years. 59 years I've been making turkeys, or witnessing turkey, or eating turkey. And to this Thanksgiving, we talked about not doing this. We talked about getting a Costco chicken because
Well, there's been years that's been a tradition, not a Costco chicken, but just roasted chicken has been a tradition with David and I.
Well, we've always done turkeys, haven't we?
No. Don't you remember your turkey, Franken turkey?
Oh, Franken turkey, when we bought a roasted... Yeah, I made a reconstructed turkey one time out of chicken legs.
Yeah, it wasn't.
That wasn't.
There was no turkey in it.
You just pretended like it was turkey, yeah. And then we put the breasts together. It was reconstructed turkey. But yeah, occasionally we drift, but this turkey was sitting there for 99 cents a pound. I said, I'm not going to get a Costco chicken because it has more salt in it. But it is nice to know that I read on their containers at Costco that they are no longer using steroids and hormones in their chicken. That's a big development. They, for years, had to contract out. Costco is the largest chicken supplier in America to people's dinner plates. And this year they managed to develop their own source for chickens, and now they get steroid-free, hormone-free chicken, which is great. Because a lot of chickens are made with hormones and steroids, and you don't need to eat that. So that's encouraging that Costco is making that migration. Costco loses $30 to $40 million a year, believe it or not, giving people a chicken for $4.99 that's already cooked. They're losing money on it, but it gets people in the store, so they're all about getting people in the store and buying things. So they're now going to recoup some of those losses by building their own chicken industry, which is very smart of them, actually. And Costco is one of the smart business models in America that actually work.
I'm pouring steaming hot water inside.
Okay.
This is a couple of things. One, it melts all the ice that I had. And
Okay.
so then it allows me to take out
Yeah. Oh, look
the
at
neck.
that. The neck's coming out.
And then
Okay.
I'll put that in. Where do you want it? Do you want
Might as well put it in the boiling water.
Good. Well,
Oh,
I'm
you need
using
that
that
boiling
water.
water, right? Okay.
So can
Let's
you
just
give me
put-
that small one?
No, I'm sure.
I'm asking which of those two pans do you want?
Put it in
this
there. Yeah, we're going to cook this.
There's nothing. The other stuff is on the other side, right?
It's down there. Yeah, you can add
It's
some more hot
actually on
water
the-
to it.
Yeah, I'm going to. That's why I didn't want to.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let's move this over here.
Wait, just a sec. I mean, let's wait for a moment, and then we'll do what you're doing. Because right now I've got the camera here and I'm doing this.
Sure.
That's the back end.
Yeah, I'll take the paper off. Thank you.
No, I don't need the lid on here. I need to use this.
Just be careful with that hot
Yeah,
water.
got it. Thank you. So now I'm going to pour it in the back end too. And the nice thing about this, even that I pour the rest of the hot water in here even after I took the neck out, because as you could see, the neck was really frozen and there's still freezing down here. So what it does, two things. The hot water helps you so you don't freeze your hand off when you're getting the neck out. And two, it kind of helps with the cooking process because, of course, as we know, the hardest part to cook is the center. So this gets it kind of pre-cooking.
Yeah.
And so that's been my trick, my strategy for cooking a turkey is to do a little hot water to get it like pre-cooking. I can already smell the goodness when I do that.
Good.
Well, still some ice in here. But...
Well, run some regular water down the back.
All right.
Just throw a little regular water in there. That should cool it off. Warm it up.
Good, thank you. That's good.
Okay.
Next time I'll do it when it's sitting down like that for the hot butter, but I used all my hot water now. All right, again, I'm going to wash my hands because, of course, I was touching the raw turkey.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I wouldn't use soap.
Well, I'd use soap when I wash my hands. Thanks.
Well, the thing is, if you use soap, even if it's a natural soap, there's a chance that the soap could get on the food.
Thanks. I've got raw turkey on my hands. I'm using soap.
Okay.
And then I'll wash it off.
Sounds good.
I don't just, put soap all over the food. I obviously wash it with hot water after that.
Okay. I'll take over to cooking then. And you can just take a break.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Having made over 50 turkeys in my lifetime, it's pretty easy for me to do this. And it's not a very stressful thing, so I prefer to take the lead on this as opposed to having Sarah do this because it's too stressful for her to cook. She doesn't like to cook. She actually likes to bake. So having years of experience in this process, I'm more than willing to take the lead here. All right, so what I've got here is the giblets right there on the stove cooking, and we're going to add some water to that, filtered water, and some herbs. So the trusted Italian seasoning, which of course I've been using quite a bit of. This is standard Italian seasoning. You guys can enjoy it. I refill it and get more. Yeah. Make sure I don't have any feet in the picture there. Sage is a very important ingredient in this meal, and I've got some raw sage and other things available, so I picked up some raw sage from my garden, and I'm just going to crush it into that. So I'm going to take some in my hand here, and I'm going to crush it right in to the actual water going on top of this meal. So I'm crushing it in. Lots of sage, and I'm going to put water over it. And I'm running it at a very hot temperature. I'm going to put a full cup of water, if not more, immersed in that, and I'm going to cover it up and just cook it to a full boil. I'm going to take it to a full boil and just like really give it all I've got. Sarah cut up all the bread, which are cut into nice little chunks, as you can see. And I'll be cutting the onion and the celery, which will go in the stuffing. I'm going to go outside and get some parsley and give you guys some fresh parsley will go into this. It's very important to have parsley, celery, and onion. And you can put a little bit of garlic in there too. I'll take a couple cloves and put that in there. In the meantime, I'm going to take the rest of the cloves and inject it inside the skin of the turkey. So that's the next step. Let's get the turkey under camera here. All right. Yeah, she gets really edgy during her cooking experience, and I don't know. I've been doing these cooking things so long. It's just like so common for me to just to relax and enjoy it. And for me, cooking is almost a spiritual experience. It's very relaxing. Take the knife and poke it. One of the hardest parts of cooking in our regular show is not being stressed out. Because when we first started the cooking show many years ago, we were hounded by trolls. The parsley's in front.
Actually, parsley's in my hand.
Oh, even better. Okay. When we first started doing the show, we were hounded by trolls. And thank you. Look at all the parsley we got. Thank you, Sarah. And the trolls were so horrendous that this was our 600th show we had done, right? Now we've done over 4,000 shows now, but right around the 600th show, we'd reached like a pinnacle of frustration with the trolls, and we were in a cooking show, and Sarah was telling me how to handle the trolls. You know, just ignore the trolls. And I was like, wait a second, I've done 600 shows. You're telling me how to do the trolls, how to handle the trolls. I mean, I've got more than enough experience handling trolls than anybody on earth, and you're telling me how to troll. So it created a point of stress that got to the point where I was angry. And I got very angry, actually. And then we got into a conversation about homelessness, because this is a very important day for a lot of people. It's the only time of the year they have a real meal. And I knew that because I've spent a lot of time with homeless people. And I know that sometimes this is their only meal for the year. And then we got into this ridiculous conversation about homelessness and how people in tents should be working. And I thought to myself, no, people in tents should not be working. They should have to work for their tent, or a toilet, or a place to cook a dinner. I mean, we should have basic services for homeless people, and we should have a meal for them every day, not just Sundays and not just turkey days. And it really bothered me that, you know, my view of the whole subject was different than Sarah's, and it started a whole cycle of bad experience cooking. And then we had to work our way through that for years and realize, well, there's no reason to, you know, get angry during a cooking show, and there's no reason to get stressed out during a cooking show. It's one of the most calming times in my life is when I'm cooking. So for me, I had to step forward out of that situation, which many people saw on camera and saw me getting very angry. It's not a normal thing for me to do. I actually am very calm during cooking, and I've done this for years. And it's the reason why I cook, because it's like, you got me and the turkey here. It's like, that's it. It's like, there's nothing to get worried about. Okay, so while water is boiling right now, it's getting to the boil point and starting to really get the giblets going. It's creating its own broth. And that way you could avoid doing this, which is buying one of these, which is the alternative to having chicken broth. And this is about $4. This is an expensive item. I'm not going to actually use this. Sarah made some wonderful pumpkin soup out of this. So she was very good at making pumpkin soup. She made it in the pumpkin itself. And we saved the meat of the pumpkin, so we have that still in the refrigerator. But these pumpkins she grew herself at her garden, and it was great. But I'm at the point where, after cooking over 50 turkeys in my life, I don't really like to drift from the original plan. And that's just working on injecting garlic in the sides here. So what I do is I cut the garlic in half like that, and take the sharp edge of the garlic and take the knife and go like this. See that? And just put the flat end next to the knife, and then push it in like that. And that's called injecting the garlic. And I do that with every turkey I make. And if you open up the hole and then find a gap there, you can put it right down the gap, and it goes right in. The holiday time for me is really like a very peaceful time. And this year, we've invited my sister over, and she's coming today, so you might see her today during the live show. She may make a cameo. But as you know, I've had a pretty tumultuous life with my sister, and she and I have not gotten along. But I thought in the interest of family, we'd have her over and we'd participate in a enjoyable Thanksgiving dinner, as any family should. Many times families don't get along during the holidays, and because that's the only time you actually encounter each other, and then they use that time to actually turn it into an argument. And this was a tradition in my family, to have arguments. And Sarah never grew up with arguments. She never had any arguments at all in her life. She completely had a very wonderful, peaceful life, whereas my family had nothing but friction. So my challenge today is to actually not engage in any verbal conflict.
Here's some sage.
Thank you. Oh, you got real sage. Oh my gosh, you pulled it out of the garden. Isn't that cool? Thank you. So my goal is to actually have a Thanksgiving that doesn't involve arguing, which for me is unusual. Because in the past, in my life, this is how I was raised, and I know this isn't the way it should be, but when I was raised, my mother would basically control the entire kitchen and bark orders at people. And it wasn't fun. It wasn't enjoyable, but we all had an incredible meal. So that's the way I was raised. The problem is families start arguing during these holiday seasons. I'm just telling it like it is. And this is not the time to really, engage. I think some people have actually asked radio talk shows about that. Should I go to my family dinner even though I know I'm going to have an argument with my brother or sister or uncle or aunt? And the answer is, yeah, you really should go to your family dinner and enjoy it for all it's worth. Otherwise, you're never going to see these people, and then you wonder why you didn't enjoy them when they were alive. And I do love my sister, and I love my family, and I want everyone to have a good time. So in the interest of not arguing, we'll try to not discuss things that are difficult, like politics. So Sarah and I are the same as any other couple. We have to have barriers or boundaries where we can't talk about things that would instigate an argument, because I don't want to argue either. And I know she doesn't want to argue, so it works out very well for both of us to not argue. I'm going to put the cuts in the leg now. I'm going to put it in the leg and in the thigh. And I've got all these nice little garlics that are going in there right now. And Sarah's got the breadboard, and she's gonna. I have a pan all set for that.
I know, but
that pan won't work for that. It's too small. That's too small of a pan. I need a little bit of room in there to make it up. Okay, thank you. So, building a relationship with your family on one day out of the year is kind of a tall order to ask, but it is important that people have the ability to find a common ground where they can not argue. If you're a person who's grown up in a family that did argue like I did, you have to realize that there are families out there that never argued. And like I said, Sarah's family never argued. And they get along really well, and it's a kind of a model for other people to follow. I didn't realize how wonderful it is that she never argued until I met her. She doesn't, have a nature of hostility, which for me was difficult at first because I had grown up in a native environment of constant arguing. And I've talked about this in my show, and that's why I'm verbally aggressive. It's in my nature, and it wasn't when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I'd never really looked for arguments. But I grew up being attacked. verbally by brothers, sisters, and my parents. And it wasn't fun. It was a really difficult childhood. And I'm more than willing to talk about it to anybody because I had to grow through it. And luckily for me, I was made aware of psychology when I was young. And I learned much of psychology when I was a child because I studied it. And I began to realize that humans are not going to get along normally. We actually have to work at it. We actually have to try our hardest to get along. And it's probably one of the reasons why we have so much aggression in our political environment now is because people don't really want to get along. They don't want to find a common ground. They don't want to find a center in the political spectrum. And we're kind of going up against the wall here because most people want to dislike the other side of the political spectrum. No matter whether you're a Democrat hating Republicans or Republican hating Democrats, most people want to find anger points that they could cling to and say, yeah, I hate those Democrats, they're so this or that, or I hate those Republicans, they're so this or that. But that's what's dividing our country. That's the same concept. The very same thing that, getting along with your family is all about. So it's going to take a little extra work for us to get past these political differences that we've generated, and our nation has never been more divided. We're at a point where we really are at our brink point, it seems. The country is. I'm going to put it in the thigh area. So, finding a common ground in the middle of the political spectrum, I decided as a Democrat that I would just drop any idea of verification for weapons. I decided I was not going to talk about verification because I even encountered problems from very, very right-wing people who they absolutely support the Second Amendment against all odds. They even think criminals should have guns. And I realized, well, if we can create a voluntary system that's not required, we won't press their buttons. We won't create a problem for a lot of people who are hell-bent on keeping their weapons against all odds. So I don't support red flag laws. I don't support verification unless it's voluntary and the government has a system in place to offer people who are selling guns a chance to actually check out the person with a simple check on their driver's license number. But it's totally voluntary, not required. So I realized that the pathway to the center of the political spectrum was not to enrage the right wing, not to upset them and take their guns away. Because I was a Democrat for 30 years, I'm going to throw those inside like that.
Okay.
So I just threw the rest of the garlic in the middle of the turkey. And I decided that the best way to solve the problems of the country is to get past this gun control issue. Now, the other issue that's a hot point between the two parties is, of course, pro-life versus pro-choice. Sarah and I are both pro-choice, but there's another option for that, and that's possibly a first trimester law, which I introduced in 2016. And ironically, John Kasich, a Republican, adopted it in his state. The same concept of a first trimester law in the state of Ohio. So all of that's possible. We could actually find some sort of a common ground where it might work, but taking away a woman's right to choose, like Mike Pence wants to do, that's not what the American people want. More people want choice than the opposite. But I can understand the perspective of the right and not wanting to kill little babies either. Now, at 20 weeks old, a fetus is no bigger than this. And the brain of that fetus has not developed a pain center. The cerebrum has not developed. So there's a lot of issues at that point that could be resolved. And the big thing is Sarah and I don't want unwanted pregnancies and mothers that just don't want their kids because the kids turn out really bad when the kids aren't loved, And that's one of the reasons why people support pro-choice, believe it or not. It's actually, they don't want a life of misery for children living in a hellhole, Now, I was a planned baby, and my parents actually needed me. My mother had 3 other children 9 years prior, and I was born 9 years after my other family members were born. So they actually needed me. I could go into detail, but I'll talk about it in my book. But they really wanted me. My mother had 2 miscarriages before she had me. That's how much she wanted me. So, I mean, I'm one of the few that survived. Obviously, she, was an older woman. She was about 40 years old when she had me. And it was something she really wanted. But some of you have been told by your parents that you were an accident. And that marked you for life.
A happy accident.
A happy accident. But your parents were just telling you the truth. That they had you accidentally. So it's not like...
That does not mean that they don't want you. That just means that they didn't totally plan to have you. But they're happy that you're there.
Yeah. So don't think that you're not wanted because you were an accident. Really. I mean, once a mother and a father have their kid... Now, I don't know what this feels like because I never had kids.
You were totally wanted.
And I was wanted as a kid by my parents, but most parents begin to love their child as soon as the child is born. And even though they get angry at you, they may actually just want what's best for you. So you always have to realize that your parents, and Sarah taught me this, your parents are human and they're not perfect.
I know, they just do the best they can with the tools that they have at the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes the tools they have are not as good as the tools you have.
Exactly. And putting that reference in perspective really helps, especially when your parents pass on.
For me, I had to look at what was my parents' life like when they were my age.
Yeah.
My parents didn't graduate from college. My parents had a large family to raise.
Yeah.
They had a lot of happy accidents, myself included.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean...
You come from a big family. Let's just put it that way. She has a lot of family members.
When my mom was my age, she already had a lot of children. And they were just making ends meet the best way that they could. They didn't necessarily have time to go to they couldn't afford to enroll me in any ball games and my school district didn't have any, my school district was so poor that if you wanted to be in band and no music, no art, I think the teacher took us to they had a librarian and they did end up having some school computers at the end, but if you wanted to take anything like that, you had to pay for it.
Yeah.
And my parents couldn't afford to pay for it because they were busy raising all the kids. They never afforded a home.
Yeah. One of the home ownership is a big thing. And if your parents are always struggling to meet their minimum payments.
I mean, David has a home, so that's good.
Well, let me tell you how my parents got their home. And it was something that they acquired through sheer tenacity and the luck of being born at a certain time and being a part of the post-war period. My parents were in the war. They were World War II veterans, both of them, so they both had VA loans. Thank you. Yeah, that's good. Onions can go into the broth. Sarah's putting onions in the broth just to get the broth cooking up with some onions.
A little bit of parsley.
And a little parsley. Good idea. Thank you. So back in the 70s, you were able to buy a house with your VA loan. And my parents bought a house in California. And it was way above their income level. They couldn't really afford the house payment. And that was the house that I first grew up in. When I was 0 to 3 years old, my parents were struggling to make the house payment. I mean, barely making it. And they were both working full time. Just to buy a small house, and I think a house cost like $30,000 in California at that time, not $1 million like it is now.
At least $300,000 for a small house.
No, a small house in California was about $20,000 to $30,000 in the 1960s. Anyway, they bought this house way above their income level, and my mother struggled to make the payments, even though she was like all the other family members in the country that wanted to buy a new refrigerator and a new car, and America was like really doing well, and people were thinking, well, we can do anything. Prosperity abounds, so let's just buy everything. And people were struggling back in the 60s just to make minimum payments on their credit cards, no different than today. Well, back then you could buy a house and then sell it and make money because the demand was so strong. And it wasn't a lot of money. I think they sold that house when I was 3 years old for what they paid for it, just to get out from under the loan. But they got into a cheaper house out in Orange County, California, that was like $20,000. But it was a stick frame, 2-story, much more room, and they could raise their family in it in a town called Garden Grove. Well, as you know, Garden Grove is very much a different place now than when I grew up in it. So for my early youth, I saw my parents still struggle for their payments and making their minimum payments on that second house. And then that house, it became obvious that they were in an area where the neighborhood was kind of, the kids weren't exactly ideal in that neighborhood. And we began to call it Garbage Grove because it was not an ideal place to raise kids. So I grew up in Garbage Grove.
No offense to anyone who currently lives in Garden Grove.
Right, no offense to people in Garden Grove, because right now it's a different area, and I like Orange County now. And actually, Garden Grove has turned into more of an Asian community, like Fountain Valley and Little Saigon, and that's fine. I mean, there's a lot of changes going on in these areas, but back then it was kind of a weird feeling growing up because my family was like, encountering all kinds of elements in the area that just weren't ideal for raising kids. Anyway, they sold that house in Garden Grove for a profit. They made like $20,000 on that house. That was just a little bit back then, and today that would be nothing. But then they moved on to another house, and they bought a bigger house, and it was huge, like 3,500 square feet in Fountain Valley. And then we transitioned to that, and then they parlayed that money into the next house. So they gradually parlayed their money to the next more valuable house until they finally were living in a house. By the time they were 68 years old, they were living in a house in San Pedro, which was annexed into Rancho Palos Verdes. So our area changed from San Pedro to Rancho Palos Verdes, had kind of a different appeal with a new name. And they managed to sell that house for an extra. They managed to make $130,000 after parlaying house to house down the road. And during that time period, I lived in a trailer at one point for a year because we were waiting for a house to be built. I had 5 schools I went to. I was never really in one school at one time long enough to make friends. So all of this process of moving from house to house to parlay a little bit more money, even though they were barely meeting their minimums, working full time, they got to the point where they could actually afford a house that they could buy outright. But it wasn't in that area because by that time, California property was way high up there. So we actually had to, I remember sitting down with my father in 1988 and saying, we've got to figure out a way in which you don't have to make a payment of $2,000 a month. And to this day, $2,000 a month is a standard around America for people living in a house that's got a mortgage. So finally we came up with this plan to buy some land up in Washington. And so my mother and I traveled up here, not once, but a couple times, because my sister Connie was living up here at the time. And we visited her up in Seattle area. And we looked for land, and we went out to this island called Whidbey Island, because it was the nicest place my parents had ever been to, and they said, we'd like to retire there. So I enabled my parents to do that, and I said, okay, let me make it all happen. And we found some property for $30,000, which is where we're living right now. And my parents took the other $100,000 and put a septic system in and bought a mobile home. And you call it a mobile home. It's not a trailer, it's a modular home that we live in. It looks like a house. It's very nice. Sarah and I really like it here. It's really well built. The standards are really, really good for mobile homes and modular homes. And we decided to just go ahead and do it. And my father was still dealing with debt in his 70s, and I assisted him in dealing with all of his costs and making sure he made sure he had enough money to cover all of his needs and my mother's needs. I mean, they ran the heat in this house for 4 years at 80 degrees because they were getting older and they were, wanted to remain warm. So our electric bill was like $450 a month for 4 years. But he had a good life, and my mother and father lived longer because they lived here. But I was the one that did all of this. None of the other family members stepped up and did anything. I was the one that moved them single-handedly all the way up from California, and it was huge. We had tons of stuff. It took me 5 trips up and down the coast from California to Washington to build this property up and make it right and bring everything. We didn't spare any expense on saving anything. We brought 47 boxes my mother had stored. I had down a storage unit. We're talking like big boxes, 47 of these things. I actually carried them all up here. And anyway, they had everything set up perfectly, and they had a great life toward the end of their life, and I took good care of them. I feel good about that. And the reward was this house. My dad decided to will it to me because I had spent 25 years taking care of them. And people accuse me of doing this for the money. I didn't get a cent from any of this. I had a separate income stream. I helped my family through the whole thing. I just inherited a house, a modular home on a piece of property that I helped set up. And it was the best time in my life. I remember my father saying how happy he was when we finally paid off all of his debts. And my mother had died at that point. And I said, Dad, you're finally free of all your debt. It's like all the credit card debt, it all amounted to a massive amount of burden on the family all those years. And I said, we finally paid it off. So he was thrilled. I mean, it brought true joy to him to know that he was finally debt free after a whole lifetime of working. So that's the story of my life and how we are here. And we're using this house to its fullest advantage because we love it here. We actually love the whole environment. Sarah loves the house, and I even put my entire will. It gives everything to Sarah if something happens to me, because I really believe that she's the one person deserving of everything I have. So I don't know anybody who could be more blessed than we are, just living in a modular home on an acre of property overlooking the mountains of Washington. So it's about finding a happy, sustainable lifestyle that you can live with and not have to make payments the rest of your life. That's what life should be like for a lot of people. And I would love to make that happen for people. Our homestead renewal plan is designed to give you home ownership in 10 years at $500 a month payments. That's realistic. That's something people can handle. We can even employ people in the homestead renewal plan to give them a job where they can make their payments and live in their house for 10 years while we keep the program rolling, assuming another president keeps the program rolling. But we'll keep these loans intact and they won't be touchable. They won't be able to take your loan away from you. They won't be able to charge you higher interest rates. It'll go right toward the principal, and you'll be having that house in your name after 10 years. Something that home ownership is perhaps one of the greatest things that Americans are striving for right now. And I don't mean just a mortgage. I mean home ownership, where you just have to pay the taxes on it. So, but you've been doing a lot of work and I've been talking, but I enjoyed talking, so thank you. And you got apples there, I see.
Well, that goes with the
stuffing, yeah. She's going to put chopped apples. She's peeled the apples, and she's going to put chopped apples in here. And it should be really good.
Now, this is all the work that goes on behind the scenes of a cooking show, of a real cooking shows, real network cooking shows.
Yeah, I'm going to put a little bit of lighting here.
All right.
But I just want everyone to know that in this world, it's extremely difficult to get out from under debt. Now, this is the pork. I'm going to cut that up. Let me handle that. This is pork I marinated with pear sauce and a little bit of organic jam. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to dice it up. So I'm going to get my hands dirty here. And I have already pre-cut it this way. See? I've cut it long ways.
Okay.
So that gave me the one cut. Now I'm going to do a cross cut.
Okay.
And I'm just going to cut it right in the glass pan, slowly. And I'm making very small cuts in this, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to fry it
You're gonna pre-cook it?
Oh, definitely. You have to pre-cook ham, and I'm going to fry it with. This is not something you would normally do with sausage. Normally, you just throw the sausage right into stuffing, but I'm going to pre-cook this because I don't want any chance of
Having uncooked pork.
trichinosis could be prevented with a 140-degree cook. But technically, you're not supposed to ever eat pork when it smells weird. And this smelled pretty good. It was actually fresh. So, but I'm going to take any sinew out of it so everyone can have a nice tender morsel.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, I'm gonna probably clean up my little things of celery and
Okay, thank you.
apples and stuff.
Composting is good, yeah.
Compost as we go. But yeah,
And I already can smell the sweetness from all the natural fruit sugars that I put in there. I love rosemary and fruit sugar with pork. And I love Hawaiian pork cook-offs because they really love to cook with mangoes and papaya.
pineapple.
Yeah, I would go to one of those Hawaiian cook-offs. I think they're really kind of fun. I've been to a few in California and where they put the whole pork or the whole pig in the ground and cook it there.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was pretty fun. And man, I don't think pork tastes any better if it's cooked that slow. It's like carnitas, but it's even better with the fruit sugars in it.
Yeah.
So while I'm cutting it here, I'm actually tenderizing it. You know, I'm actually pushing it into the tenderizing solution.
Yeah, that's true.
Breaking
More
down
of
the proteins.
juice and stuff.
They say that when you tenderize meat, it cuts your cholesterol by 50%.
Do you want a little bag to put all the sinew in?
Yeah, actually just a little plate, or just a blue plate would be enough.
Well, wouldn't
Okay, whatever you want to get.
throw it away.
Yeah. Whatever you want to use. No, I'd rather not use a brand new bag because that's wasteful. I'll just put it in the compost heap when I'm done. I'm just going to set it on the side. Actually, there's hardly any sinew here that needs to be thrown away, just a little bit.
Here you go. Here's the blue plate.
Yeah. Most of this is pork, except for I cut most of the fat off. But we got this pork for $2.37, which is actually cheaper than sausage. So we're still under $15 with those ingredients. And could you go in the refrigerator or the freezer and pull out the beans and show everybody the beans?
The beans. Oh, the green beans.
Yeah, I've got green beans. I purchased organic green beans at a discount place for $3 for the bag, $3.99 for the bag. So, or no, $3 for the bag. It was like, so we're at $18 with the beans. And if you want to cook with potatoes, those are cheap. Beans and make your bean casserole. You could pretty much have a complete meal for $20.
We definitely didn't put these on the top thing shelf, did you?
No, I did.
Yeah, you must.
I actually got into those a little bit last night.
Got it.
I ate some of those.
Aren't
Yeah.
they tasty?
Oh yeah, those are really good, tasty onion rings.
Fortunately, I got another bag.
Yay! Right on.
Because
Okay.
I eat them like potato chips. I know there's certain people out there that hate onions and would rather feed them to you as a baby bird and
Yeah.
put them in your mouth if you like them because they hate onions so much. But I like them like this because I do.
Yeah.
I don't like raw onions that are yellow raw onions, but I do like cooked onions. And yeah, any raw onions I'm not a big fan of, but cooked onions I actually do like. So
You like cooked mushrooms too, but not
I
raw
do.
mushrooms.
yeah, that's true. That's how I feel about mushrooms as well.
Now, the bean dish does require little mushrooms too, so we might want to pre-glaze some of those with some onions when we make it. But
Yeah, maybe.
I'm gonna cook this pork.
Can I borrow this cutting board?
I'm gonna cook the pork on that's still at a roaring boil in there. So we're making our broth straight up. But thanks for letting me tell you my life story. I thought, people want to know about how I managed to do this, and I didn't expect an inheritance, but my father said it was the right thing for all the work I had done, and it's a tradition in Norwegian families to give it to one son, so he decided to make it possible for me to actually provide for other family members as well. So, and that's part of my life story, which you'll know more about when you read my book, because I'm not going to give you all the specifics.
Except in your book.
Except in my book, which I'm still working on. That's definitely sinew. Okay, but this is real meat as opposed to pork mixed in with fat, so this is a little bit leaner than normal.
I'm washing off mushrooms for mushrooms. No soap.
Yeah.
I'm just washing off mushrooms with just some water. I'm gonna slice them up for the green bean casserole. So it'll be green beans, mushrooms. Instead of cream of mushroom soup, one of the things that David and I discovered last year, because David was like, realized that most cream of mushroom soups have MSG in it, and I don't like MSG. I went to one restaurant one time and it was so bad I had the worst headache ever. And it's weird because I don't get headaches with salt, but MSG I definitely do.
Yeah.
And so anyway, even like the Campbell's
Campbell's
soup has MSG in it.
Yeah.
So instead we found this at Costco. It's funny because for years Dave was like, why do people shop at Costco? Blah, blah, blah. And my family used to shop at Costco because I have come from a very large family, and 2 gallons of milk at Costco, well, that would be like twice a week. We'd probably buy like 2 of those, so 4 gallons of milk a week at Costco. But anyway, we found this at Costco.
Oh yeah.
Broccoli cheddar soup, and we tried it last year instead of the cream of mushroom soup because I'm like, well, it's creamy, and it was so good.
Yeah.
It made it way more delicious for the green bean casserole.
Yep.
So we're gonna do that again.
But you can use Campbell's mushroom. It's just it has MSG in it, so just so they know, but that's cheaper. Of course.
No, I have a story about broccoli cream of mushroom soup. Not cream of mushroom, broccoli cheddar soup like this. So David and I, we were dating, and he came down to visit me one year, and I was so sick. I was just, I did not feel good. It was just not a good thing. I was not feeling good at all. So, and I don't know, I went to a party with my sister the night before, and I think I just ate something that did not agree with me. And then the next day I was meeting David. David was coming down to visit me, and he was so nice. I felt bad because I was like, I didn't just want to stay in bed all day. But I actually went over to the hotel room David had got, and I did stay in bed most of the day, and he just took such good care of me. He made me tea, and then we went out to Marie Callender's, and I ordered this broccoli cheddar soup, and it was just so delicious. It's one of my favorite memories, actually, is having that broccoli cheddar soup when I was just not feeling good. And David was so sweet. He made me tea, and that was very, very sweet of him. He's such a sweetheart, and he just takes really good care of people. He was explaining about his family, and that's one of the things that really I found attractive to David. like I said, I have a really large family. And when I met him and how he was taking care of his elderly parents, I found that very, very attractive, because I knew if someone was taking care of their elderly parents, they valued family a lot. And I value family a lot. David has helped me, like, there's comes a time when you have to, like, in order to move forward. Well, maybe you don't know this because maybe you didn't come up from my childhood, but there comes a time, if you grow up in certain families, that you have to move, in order to move forward and better your own life, that you have to not allow yourself to be pulled down into the drama of family. So, for instance, with family, drama can happen all the time. Susie B had a flat tire, or Jenny Sue got pregnant, or whatever. And, there's drama that can happen all the time, especially in a large family like mine. And I love my family so much. But, if you're, like, going forward and you're getting your college degree, and it's like, oh, I can either pay my tuition or I can help Susie B with her flat tire, and then it's like, but they're family and I should help them with their flat tire because they totally need that help and support. Or do I pay my tuition and try to better myself? And that's one of the things that I've been able to do, is actually, like, say, wait a minute. I have to stop and not get involved in all the drama, and I have to take care of myself first, so that now I am in a position that if somebody needs help, I can help them.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna bring the camera back over here. So I've got all these beautiful mushrooms, and I'm gonna move his pork. Or do you want to do the stuffing first? Because the stuffing looks like it's all ready to do, and then I'll move on.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do the stuffing first. I'm gonna pan fry the pork over here.
Okay.
And I've got some organic eggs for the. I think this will require 3 eggs for the stuffing. So.
Good, I can use any more. I think there's
Pick up some organic.
Pumpkin pie and see. I think that requires some eggs.
Yeah, I think there's some eggs for that. So I'm just going to leave the eggs out today, over in the front here.
Well, we'll leave them right in the fridge.
Well,
I mean, the ones you need for your stuffing. But.
Okay, well, if you want to make a pumpkin pie, because Connie said she's bringing over a pumpkin pie, so.
Okay, well, you're right, and I don't think that pecan pie requires eggs, but it might.
It might, yeah. It normally requires Caro sauce, pecan pie does, but Caro syrup, but we don't use Caro syrup because it's corn syrup. It's genetically modified.
So it looks like you're just gonna start your
I'm just gonna pan fry the pork for everybody.
I can do side by side with you, and I can do cut up the mushrooms. So I can move all this. So we've got
2 stations, yeah.
If you see all the mise en place, we've got cut up bread. He's got his pork. So I've got onions and parsley, celery, and apples all ready to go, and eggs, and his pork would be the last ingredient, I think, in your
I'm just
stuffing.
going to put a little oil on the bottom here. I'm going to pan fry the pork, and just because I'm going to add that to the stuffing, and I just want it done. Let me get the air on it here. I don't want the oil going in the air. We're down to the bottom of this atomizer, so there's just enough to get it from sticking. Okay, so turn the burner up to about level 3 and get it nice and hot. And we're going to stir fry the pork just to prep it. Normally this would be a sausage going into the stuffing, but I've never used pork loin in a stuffing. So
but it's made out of it. And then he always takes off the casings off this sausage, so why not? It's almost like you're making your own sausage in a way.
In a way, yeah. The casings, when you get sausage, there's a couple of different ways. Don't touch that. That's toxic.
Okay. So
we're using only paper towels in here.
Then this is going out. So
yeah, that can go in the washcloths, and sponges are a no-no. if you're cooking, you don't want washcloths and sponges around because they are harbingers of disease. They're filled with bacteria, and those bacteria get cross-contaminated with food. So, and especially, like I just went in the other room and washed my hands with soap and water and rinsed them off. But I was kind of worried about using detergent around food. That was my earlier thing. Great. Well, thanks for coming in, everybody. We are live, recorded. Okay, so we're already 47 minutes into this record, or 45 minutes into this record, which is amazing. I don't think I've ever had a more smooth 2-hour show. We're, of course, we're watching it. We recorded it in the morning. You're seeing our show right now at the 4 o'clock hour. We're not actually doing a live audience, because if I was using a live audience, you'd be in here watching and talking, and I'd be talking about other things, like things in the room. So, but this is a heck of a deal. I got this amazing bag at Grocery Outlet for $3. Organic whole green beans. We had another option, which was, I had picked these up for 90 cents a piece at Walmart, and I was going to use these, right? And these were 90 cents a piece, but I got 3 cans of these, or the frozen. So, but this is non-GMO. They're both non-GMO organic. But isn't that great that Del Monte is doing non-GMO now? Because we find that genetically modified food is not safe. We haven't seen long-term studies done on them. And many people who are still eating genetically modified corn chips and corn syrup, which is in almost everything we eat, we run the risk of having a problem with our ability to replicate. There was a study done on a particular element in the genetically modified corn called epicite. And if you research epicite, E-P-I-C-Y-T-E, you'll see that there's a lot of red flags about this. And again, our government doing things they shouldn't have done without our authorization. This is why we're building a third party, everybody. I can't tell you the importance of how we need a voice in the middle of the political spectrum. And I can't tell you how hard it is for me as a citizen to watch our country split in two by a bunch of corporate elitists that have paid off both sides of the political spectrum. The Democrats are leeching off of big corporate money, and so are the Republicans. So we really need this party. And believe me, I have not used a lot of money to get the word out. We've almost got an anti-money position because we never solicit for donations. We've never made a penny doing this. And other people have been so fearful that what we're doing is so powerful that they've been paid millions of dollars, and censoring us is a profitable career for some people. Believe it or not, there are people right now that are multimillionaires who've tried to stop our show. And I'm not kidding. That's the truth. All right, we got a nice hot pan over here. We're going to throw that pork on there. Spread it around. I'm going to turn it up to level 6 now. And keep the top off of it. You don't have to keep the top on. We're just going to try to spread it around in the pan. And just let it sit there. And just start cooking. And level 6 should get it up there pretty fast. If you want to take the and steam it, I don't think it tastes as good when you steam it. I think it kind of, with pork, I've noticed it gets kind of a rubbery consistency. So anyway, on a different note, the entire country's got a travel warning. The recommendation is to not go anywhere and stay put. Don't go to see your family. So many of you are probably canceling your vacation because You can't make it. The planes are being held back, ice on the runways, massive amounts of snowdrift across the country. Very strange stuff happening. And Sarah and I had a conversation about this today, a really good conversation about climate change. And I see it from both sides. And another side, too. I see the Republicans' position very clearly that a lot of the fakery that happened in the past 10 years by the climatologists have been saying that we are entering global warming and it's just terrible and this is a cycle. Well, I've seen a production done by a very expert climatologist and statistical analysis done, and a lot of those studies didn't include the 1880s and 1890s, which was very hot and cold. So we really are on a wave pattern where, in the 1890s it got really hot and then really cold, and through those cycles of all those years, and now it's getting into that same thing, really hot and really cold. So it's not necessarily what the Democrats are portraying it to be, a deadly end of the world thing. And let's not forget that carbon dioxide only occupies 0.038% of our atmosphere. It's hardly even an issue. The bigger issue is us breathing it, being near a diesel muffler, or downwind for some secondary smoke from somebody's cigarette, or outside a campfire. Those are where we're suffering. It's pollution, and it's the age-old thing that the ecologists were talking about. Pollution is the problem. It's not just a scaremonger thing that Greta's doing, which is ridiculous. She's being exploited, and I agree with anybody who thinks she's being exploited, because she clearly is, by George Soros, ironically. So you want to take the pork and just kind of gingerly move it around and flip it, like this, at a level 6. The idea is to not cook it too fast, but not steam it either. And you can throw other spices in there, but I just have all the marinade in there, so it's perfect. You don't have to do much. I might throw a little of my Bragg's no salt sprinkle on 24 herbs and seasoning. I'm going to do that. I'm going to brag about my Bragg's. But global warming is not happening the way that the Democrats are portraying it. They're scaremongering. It's like the sky is falling with these people. But the Republicans have missed the boat on caring about the environment. They don't care about the environment. They aren't showing care about the environment. They aren't cleaning up toxic waste zones. They've ignored vast areas that are now blowing up. In fact, there's a chemical fire right now still burning in Texas. And you want to know something? We found this out yesterday. Some of our people did some research. It turns out the owner of that oil company that blew up yesterday, that was making Agent Orange, if you can believe that. They're still making Agent Orange. That company is owned by Aramco Oil. They just bought it. So a Saudi Arabian oil refinery in Texas is blowing up. And the Republicans don't even care. That's the problem. You know what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to chop up a couple of fresh cloves of this sage that Sarah just pulled from the garden. We have a lot of sage growing out there. And I'm just going to throw a little sage on top of this while it cooks naturally. Give it a little rinse. But there's a third thing that I think many of us are forgetting, and that's what's really going on. The weather modification that's been happening in our country. The weather modification is just overwhelming. They are dumping chemicals in our skies, and that wasn't even factored in. The Democrats don't want to even talk about that. They actually think that somehow that's just something that we should do, they say. Stratospheric aerosol injection. Oh, yes. We really should do that. Yeah, we should start. And they're the ones that have been calling anybody who questions what's going on in the skies a bunch of whack jobs. Oh, but now they're talking about spraying stuff in the skies, if you can believe that. Anyway, I'm going to throw the sage in there. Fresh sage. Kind of top it off. and just mix it in. Isn't that nice? Let it cook with the fresh sage. There you go. You don't want to use too much sage, but that's about enough. I'm going to keep cooking this until it tenders, gets nice, and you don't want to get it pink. Even though it's going to be inside the bird. Actually, what I could do right now is, I'm going to infuse it and cover it and steam fry it. I'm going to turn the flame right off and let it sit. And that'll be enough heat for that pork to get pre-cooked. And then Sarah can pick up with the bean dish. But then we're about ready to put the bird in the oven, so I'm going to go ahead and clear the oven out. Well, I must say we're having an incredible day here in Washington. We're getting the best weather in the country. It's absolutely gorgeous outside right now. Crisp, clean, and no chemtrails. So I'm happy about that. We had some chemtrails a couple days ago, but it's been really nice. We haven't had a problem. So this is a 2-hour presentation. We're on our way through into the second hour here. So let's do some free love.
For free love.
I'm just checking to see if there's anything weird in here. The only thing is, it's just got salt in it. It's got sodium. So that's the one downside. It's got a lot of sodium in it. Yeah, 1 cup has 730 milligrams of salt. So that's the only downside of the bean dish, but that's why people love it. But the nice thing is we're augmenting that by pulling our sodium down. We got 0 sodium in this. Whereas the cans of sodium mixed with that, it might be a little too much. I would go for the cream of mushroom soup. Personally, I'm not that worried about MSG. I have people in our show that keep talking about how MSG causes some sort of a problem with the brain. I was like, well, okay. What doesn't in this world? We're all living in a world of toxic waste, literally. And that's the part that we have to fix. Somebody said, hey, we've got to get ready to move our human species to AI and go to another planet. We're given one opportunity and we can't even make this work. There's something wrong with humanity. So we've got to start air filtration and water filtration as a priority. Not talk about cap and trade like the Democrats and the New World Order wants to do and tax everybody. We got to not tax people for the changes that are coming because our economy is already kind of like topsy-turvy. It's a little shaky. Taxing is not going to help our economy. Reapportioning funds from one project to another is how we're going to make this country pick up speed. We've got wasteful spending so far in this country that it is not able to actually fix itself. We got funnels of money going to various places that, believe me, they're just snaking it away, and we'll spot those people. The Republicans are afraid to do everything. They're not even willing to cut spending. The Republicans have proven, again, time and time again, that they continue to do more spending than the Democrats after the Democrats continue to do more spending than the Republicans. It's like they're both fiscally mismanaging our country. And look at Elizabeth Warren, my goodness. She wants to offer $50,000 writing off debt for college students, loan forgiveness. Do you know what that's going to cost our country? Over $1 trillion to do that. There's 1.5 trillion in FAFSA loans. And that's just touching the surface of the loan problem. 1 trillion, we don't have that $1 trillion to give. I say, reorganize everything under a fixed rate loan and guarantee that their payments are going toward the principal. So that way people pay their money back that they took to get an education. They shouldn't have a free ride. I didn't get a free ride. I didn't say I was a Cherokee Indian like Elizabeth Warren did and lied about that. I didn't lie on my affirmative action papers. So she's basically a liar. And she's rewarding other people for cheating. And that's not the country we need. That's actually rewarding fiscal mismanagement, which is not good for our country. All right, so we're getting there. Everything, including the juice, can go in there. I'm going to go ahead and pour the broth into the pork, since it's all going in the same place, and keep the turkey meat and the giblets in this container. So that's the broth. That's everything. And I'll let that turkey neck stay in its own heat, and we will have ourselves a wonderful turkey neck. I'll pull it off and I'll make gravy out of that. And the neck bones are, slowly, it's kind of difficult to pull those neck bones apart, but it's worth it. And the gravy tastes great. I use all the giblets, and I chop up all the giblets too. Okay, so we're getting ready for the stuffing stage when Sarah's ready. Make sure she's doing okay. Let's go ahead and add a stinger to you guys. Okay, I'm ready here, Sarah. I'm ready now. All right. Voila. Pretty good, huh? I just called Sarah to come on in. All right, so this is good. I've got the broth ready to go. I'm going to take the bread, if we bring that over, and and the celery. I'm going to put the flame back on the broth here with the pork, and start that up. Okay. I'm heating up the combined broth of both the turkey broth and the pork broth, all combined. And I'm going to add the onions, the celery, but the parsley stays on the side. And I'm going to pre-cook the onions and the celery just to get a glaze going. It's just going to take about 5 minutes of cooking at level 6. Oh, sorry. All right, so getting up to level 6. Basically reheating that container I just had. And I'm going to take the beautiful cut celery, organic, and cut onions, organic, and I'm going to toss it right in on top. Okay, I'm going to take that up to a boil and then turn it off. And then we'll be ready to add everything together with the whole wheat that's been pre-toasted and cut, with the broth and the onions that are pre-cooked, and the celery. And we're going to form it all together with 3 eggs. Now, the eggs are used simply to bring as a binder, because otherwise the stuffing doesn't hold together, and it's not like really, you can't scoop into it otherwise. But if you are doing a vegan alternative to a turkey stuffing, you'd want to eliminate the turkey juice, the pork juice. It'd basically be dishwater with maybe some, that'd be tough to be like a gluten-free.
You can't do gluten-free.
No, but can you imagine being a gluten-free vegan and wanting to make a turkey dinner?
Well, yeah,
that's just amazing. I don't see how it would be possible. Now, you may want to cut some of the soup with a little bit of milk, Sarah, because it does have 700 milligrams of salt per cup.
Yep.
So we have some whole milk we can add to this that will stretch the broccoli cheddar taste, so it actually gives it it's great taste, but it doesn't have as much salt, because it is really high salt. They don't use MSG, but they definitely use 730 milligrams per cup. So this has 5,000 milligrams of salt in it, what you're looking at.
I'm not going to use the whole thing.
No, I'm just telling you what we're, looking at. Okay, you are watching David Sponheim, the American Original. People wonder, who am I? I've been doing this show for 11 years, and we've got a huge amount of people watching our regular show, and I can't explain the phenomenon other than people want a third party. And it doesn't have to be me, it could be anybody, but somebody who can articulate the will of the American people. Because we're not getting our will listened to by our leaders. It's almost bizarre how they ignore us. Okay, we got a preheat going. We're going to go ahead and put that on hold for now while I finish up this section.
I just need 2 eggs for my pecan pie, so if you need more eggs for your thing, if you hold back.
No, I'm good. I got 3 eggs. I don't want a lot of eggs.
All right.
I'm going to pre-mix them. So let me cut them right, do that right now. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and prep the eggs. I can break them in this bowl here. Crack them in here and mix them up. I'm going to use a sharper knife. It's best to have a sharp blade when breaking eggs. Otherwise you get the cracks going in there when you hit it with a dull blade. Okay, and then I'm going to take and mix that up. There we go. The apples and the parsley go in raw.
They'll cook in the turkey when the turkey's cooking.
They cook in the turkey, yeah. And Sarah's cutting the mushrooms for the bean dish right now. We got that.
You don't need to be distracted. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Well, they want to see you cutting the mushrooms.
That's fine. Thanks.
Thanks, okay.
You got a lot to do.
I know. Well, that's why I do it. Because it's got to be done. Okay, that can be turned off now. It came to a full boil. I'm not going to even lift that. That can stop. I can hear it boiling right there, so we're good. I'm all set to assemble the ingredients. Here we go. Let's go to a full screen on this. All right. Yeah, it's nice glaze. You just want to make sure everything is just softened a little bit. Okay, perfect. Okay, we're going to throw it all together now. This goes with the bread. It goes right on top, like that. And the eggs go on top of that. And then you take a spoon and mix it all up. That's not a very clean spoon. I just saw some avocado on my spoon because I've been eating so many avocados. I guess a dishwasher won't really get rid of avocado when it's on it.
No, pretty clean.
I know. Okay, so just take a clean spoon and gently mix everything together. And I'm going to throw a little bit more of this sage in there. So I'm going to put some dried sage in with the cold sage. I'm just going to toss real sage in here. And then that should be about a tablespoon of sage. Nice it up, and then add the apples. Perfect. I'm going to put a little water in the stainless steel pan so it doesn't overheat. There we go. Otherwise, it's impossible to clean those things.
Yeah.
All right, so we're good. We're mixing everything together, and we're about ready to stuff the turkey. Here we go. Okay, so I'm taking this turkey out of the sink here, and I'm just going to drain it. Any excess water. And I've already injected garlic in it, so you've seen that. I'll set it over on the counter here. I'm going to reverse the camera. There we go. And we'll take that same spoon. Actually, I'm going to go for a bigger spoon. I got a big spoon here from way back in the 1950s. This is the big spoon I'll put it in there with, and I'm just going to go ahead and put it right into the cavity. Now, some people would put walnuts in this. I'm not going to.
We do have walnuts.
I think walnuts would be a good add-on if it would be something you'd want to put in a stuffing, but I'm going to go with just the natural carrot.
You have carrots?
I mean, not natural carrot, but the natural celery and onion and apple. Okay, so you want to leave a little space at the top for breathing room. Just about 1/4 of an inch. Okay. You know what I like about this stuffing is it's very low fat.
Yeah.
And I've got these skewers I've had since, forever. I inherited these from my mother. And we've got a couple of skewers here we'll be using. Generally, skewers have to be metal. They give you plastic for these things to tie these things together, and they say it's ready for you can run it in the oven. I don't really want to have plastic in the oven, so I'm going to pull this. I'm going to pull this plastic thing out. There's something about plastic in my food that doesn't appeal to me. This thing is of no value too, this thing on the end, right here. That's just got nothing but fat on it. And you can throw that in the compost heap. I'm sure if you were really hungry and had no money, you could make soup out of that, I suppose. But see, I don't really get the whole cooking the plastic thing. It doesn't really appeal to me. It's like, yeah, I really want my plastic to be extra crispy. Be sure to bake it at a high level so we can melt the plastic. Okay, I'm going to get a paper towel. Okay. All right, so I'm going to take the skewer. And that was really in there. Okay. Take the skewer and just kind of cross over the two lips here and go through the two and then back again. That's one of your skewers. And the other skewer comes up from the top. If you have enough flap, you can do this. You go through one side, through the top, through the one side and the other side, and then grab the other side and go like this. And so you basically make you go 3 times through the bird in cross directions. And then give it a twist. And then stab the bird. See how nice that is? They button right up. And there's nothing coming out there except maybe a little apple. Let me throw some apple in there. Okay, now the bird has a lot of oils in it, naturally. And I'm going to go ahead and put the bird in the pan it's going to be cooked in. If you could grab the plate out from underneath, that'd be great. Okay. And we're going to cook it. I think this pan can cover completely, or is it going to be lifted a little bit?
Well, I thought you cook it breast side down.
Yeah, we're going to go breast side down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle it with some more of this organic sprinkle here. And you can use onion powder or garlic powder. I don't have any, so I'm just going to do a little Italian seasoning on the one side, and I'm going to spray it with a little bit of olive oil. I'm going to put sage on it as well. So I'm just using a combination of garden herbs, and I'll shake a little sage on it. There we go. Give it a little spray. Turn this on. Okay, just a little bit of oil, and I'll flip it over. Okay, and then I'm going to fill this section of the bird. Now I used to make oyster stuffing, sausage stuffing, but I'm using the pork loin stuffing just to get a really light, fruity taste. Okay. Now we have a little container, like a Corel container down below.
No, you want.
I think we could, or any kind of a separate container for a stuffing. Corel would be okay.
It's already in front of you. It's a bread pan. I'm using the Corel for that.
Oh, okay, bread pan. Okay, that'll
I have
work.
2 other dishes I'm making. So.
Yeah, I think I have a glass one down here. I'm going to do that. Here it is. Yeah, okay. There's the Corel. I'm going to give you that.
I don't think they will all fit in there.
Yeah, that's good. I think I can fit it all in here.
Pan.
No, it's perfect. I think it'll just press right in there perfectly. And it'll have a cover too. All right, so I'm going to take and seal the last portion of this thing up. Okay. Grabbing one side and connecting the other is the key. And oftentimes there's a flap here. So yeah. Here's the flap. Go through the flap like that. And make another turn. And then give it a twist into the bird. Like that. We're done. Okay. And we're ready to put this little guy in there. It's all set to go. Well, you were a good hen. Thank you so much for being a bird. And now we get to eat you. Or cook you. Let's do this cooking first. Oh, you know what I forgot?
No.
I forgot the parsley in the center of the bird.
I thought you put it in the stuffing.
No, I didn't.
You didn't put the parsley in the
No.
stuffing?
So I'm going to make a separate. Yeah, I don't really like parsley that much, if you don't mind.
Oh, I don't care. I thought
Now I'm going to make. Now I'm going to make kind of a slightly.
You don't even have to do that much parsley. You can throw it out. I don't care.
No, I love parsley, but I don't really want to. Yeah, I kind of forgot it in the main bird, but
That's fine.
I don't really like it in the main bird, so I'm going to go with it on the side dish. I'm going to put another egg in there. There we go. Mix it all together. Okay. Put it in this dish. This will be the parsley dish. It's kind of nice to offer people different tastes, you know. It's like, oh, you want the one with parsley or not with parsley, you know? Because I do love parsley. It's hard to imagine the pork taste with the parsley next to it. So we'll find out what it tastes like when we mix it all together here. Yeah, see now how nice this fits right in here? It literally seals it perfectly. And then you got yourself your full bird. What time is it, Sarah?
Oh, I don't know.
What does the clock say?
12:20.
12:20. Okay. We're going in there now, and we're going to go ahead and put that in there. I'll press it down a little bit. Turning that off. We're ready to start loading the bird in. I'm going to put a little bit more. I'm going to finish the brag and then get every little bit of that out of there. And I'm going to put the bird, cover that with a little Italian seasoning and sage. Just a little bit of sage. Okay. And you can pretty much get that cover on there. Maybe wiggle it into position. And if you could open the oven door, I'll put it in there. Thank you.
That is great.
Oh, I got this. I forgot to pull that out. I got it. Let me get the... Yeah, I forgot to pull that out. My mistake. Yeah, that rack's going to be hot, so I'm going to put it somewhere safe.
I don't know where you can.
Hang on. And just close it up again. Okay, I put it on the back deck. That way it wouldn't be, anywhere near anybody. Because if that a deck thing like that is super hot. Okay, here we go.
I'm trying to do it without your feet, but.
Okay. Oh, it's okay. I don't mind. Okay, I'm gonna put that in there, and I'm gonna put this on the side. And I'll pull this out early, but that's ready to go. All right, everyone. Now Sarah's gonna focus on her part of the deal, while I pick the turkey bone apart. And she's got a wonderful spread over here. She's got all her the green beans set up, the mushrooms. It's all looking good. All right. You know, the nice thing about doing a show for people is we're just average Americans, and a lot of people want to know what average Americans are doing. So I certainly don't mind sharing my life with all of you. One thing you'll find out about me is I'm pretty much, what you see is what you get,
The truth is, we love sharing our life with you.
I don't have another life with anyone else besides you people. So I don't mind.
We're thankful that you watch our show. That's what Thanksgiving is all about. So thanks for being here.
And I appreciate the fact that people are interested in what we're doing. I'm fully aware that a lot of people don't have any families, and I'm incredibly fortunate to have Sarah in my life, and I'm very, very thankful that she has chosen to be here. And I can only imagine how horrific it is to be alone in a world where, you want to meet somebody and can't find anybody. And I went through that dating stage in my life, and it's not fun, but at the same time, it's less complicated than being with somebody.
And I just want to say thank you to all those people that are, out there working on Thanksgiving, especially, when, so that others can be with their family. And
that's true, yeah. There's a lot of people, and they get double pay at the markets for working. I know one guy I used to work with at the radio station. He has a job working in a market, and he stayed in markets because it's a regular income for him, and he gets double pay, I think, for his time during the holidays. Yeah, we can.
I'm just gonna do a quick
Yeah.
cleanup before I get into
Okay.
my other stuff. I'm just gonna, excuse me. I'm
Sure.
just gonna
That's fine. I'll
stacking.
just leave it there. I'll take it. I'll do a little cleaning while you're doing that. Then I'll pick the bone clean on a separate note. You don't have to worry about that. I'll do the gravy, but she's going to do the bean dish, and I'm going to have back off a little bit because Sarah's really good at the bean dish. She doesn't really like to cook, which I understand. It's always, for me, it's like the best thing. I enjoy it so much, but I do know one thing. Sarah's really good. She likes to make certain things. She's really good at it, like baking. And so I'm getting rid of all kinds of compost here. She makes an incredible waffle that is so fluffy and nice. It's amazing. It's a Belgian waffle she makes.
I just don't like it.
You just not enjoy it, yeah. Which is okay. It's understandable.
Well, especially, never mind.
No, I don't mind. What's on your mind? I mean, working in the kitchen is not easy with two people.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
all I was going to say.
It's a kind of like one person steps in the way of the other person, and it's like you're almost dancing, but in a bad way. It's like finding position. Nice. And that's pretty clean. That's as clean as it'll be, considering it's an old 1950s Corelware, so.
All right, there we go. Okay, I've got all my.
Yeah, you take your time.
Forward or step back.
I'll just stay in this position right here, and I will just not move
No, just
anywhere.
kidding.
It's just-
I'm just kidding. but-
no, I'm staying right here.
I'm just trying to get all my knees in place, as they say. I got all the right lingo because I watch those cooking shows. But.
Oh yeah.
All right. What I like about this bean dish is I do it kind of like the way I make this bean dish is kind of like a lasagna.
Yeah.
I just layer it.
Oh yeah.
So that's how I do this bean dish.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
So I start with I've got a big spoon. Having the right tools is so good.
That's true. I'm going to bring out a little bit of milk too for you in a cup, just to have on the side, because I do want to pull the salt down a little bit over there. I've got some whole milk here. There you go. I'm going to give you a little whole milk to work with over there, just if you need it. Thank you.
Alright, so we have a little bit of the cream of broccoli soup ready.
Cream of broccoli is the best. Cheddar broccoli, yeah, that's a really good soup.
So I'm gonna put a little layer of that on the bottom.
Cool. Yummy. I've got the giblets all cooked up here. You see them all covered with herbs, and I'm going to leave the heart and the liver on the side, and I'm just going to pull the neck out and start working on it, putting it in this container.
Add a little of his milk. What a cute little cup.
That's from Norway, that cup. My parents got it when they went to Norway. It's an heirloom.
And then I start with my layers. So I'm going to do a layer of green beans. I could cut them, but they'll be fine. These are really big. I should probably cut them.
Oh, they'll cook down. They're all set to cook. Just don't bother. Just throw them in there. Once you cook that in the oven for 2 hours, that baked bean dish is America's favorite.
A little bit of, these are slivered onions.
Nice. That'll be so good.
I do that instead of, this keeps the salt level down for the, the crunchy onions.
Yep.
because otherwise you could do these onions, the crispy onions or French fried onions, but I do like a little bit of raw cut onions, a little bit of mushroom.
Yep.
And then again, another layer of cream of broccoli soup with the milk.
Oh, that's a wonderful idea. It's like a lasagna. That's great.
Yeah.
I've never realized that. I was wondering why our bean dishes were so good the past few years. They really are like incredible. In fact, I think that we cook during the morning, of course, and the turkey's in the oven at 12:20, and we eat around 4 o'clock while you guys are just starting to watch the show. And in fact, we're eating right now as you're watching this. So we recorded it ahead of time so that we don't have to interact.
Well, it took us so long to get a turkey in the oven. We'll see, but we probably are eating right now.
Yeah, 4 o'clock will be our eating time, and we start our show at 6.
Yeah.
Not 5, so that we have a little extra time to eat dinner. Otherwise,
the live portion, yeah.
The live portion, and we do a 4-hour live show from 6 to 10, and then we do videos till 1 o'clock in the morning. So if you want to chunk out an 8-hour time of your day for our show, feel free.
And that's not just on Thanksgiving.
That's every day except for Sunday. And I leave Sunday open so that everyone can explore life and experiment with going to parks and maybe going to church or whatever you're doing.
Go to open houses.
Yeah, go to open houses in your area and eat hors d'oeuvres that realtors put out. That would be fun. We could do that. Realtors all set out plates of donuts and things, and you could just look at new houses. Sure, yeah. Of course, you have to spend gas to do that, but
Cheaper than buying the house.
Yeah, it's cheaper than buying the house, and you can say, "Hey, I was in that house for about a half an hour eating their hors d'oeuvres." It's almost like living there.
Get your ideas for decorating or not decorating.
Yeah.
This year, I've really enjoyed that KonMari thing.
Oh yeah, that really you did your entire dresser and everything. You learned how to simplify your wardrobe, and it was amazing all the changes you made. I was amazed. And then she got me inspired, and she said, "David, I want the living room clean for Christmas." And yesterday I said, I had this big item in there, a big tent I was storing.
I think it was really, a family member coming over rather than me, but...
No, it wasn't. No, it was you. You were the original motivation. I didn't even know Connie was going to be invited until I invited her. That was like weeks ahead of time I'd been thinking about doing this. But she was in the area in Seattle, and I thought I'd give her an opportunity to come over and hang out and stay for a night. And things are working out so far, so I think it'll be
she's not here yet, so that's why things are working out. So
no, I made a commitment. I told everybody in the show earlier that I don't want to argue on this holiday. So I'm going to do everything I can to not get into any conflict on politics. And I'm going to urge everyone else to try to avoid talking about politics, because if it is on the topic in the family, it's going to be a friction point. You're almost guaranteeing an argument once you start opening a political discussion. So she and I both agreed when we met recently that we wouldn't talk about politics, because she's more libertarian than I am, and I'm more progressive than she is. That's the best way to describe it. But we both are willing to look at conspiracy theories with an open eye, my sister and I.
I think she even takes it more than we do.
She does, but she's worried about the 5G network, as I am. She's worried about, all the terrible toxins in our country, but she's also worried about the Democrats trying to take our rights away, which they're trying to do. So my sister and I are not that far away politically, but she's more conservative in that sense. She supported Trump in the early days, and I didn't.
And still don't.
I consider him relatively mindless of the environment and the concerns that all of us really have about what we're doing here. He seems to be living in his own little world with his trophy wife. That's what it looks like to me. And it's kind of sad, because we need a person who's basically a person of the people right now, not a person who's lived in an ivory tower all his life. We need a guy who can relate to people, not This guy just doesn't relate to people, I don't think.
And that's it. It's just, that's why I said I want to just do this. I might end up doing this on a non-recorded show because it takes a while.
Okay.
So, anyway, thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you guys later. It's always pleasant to have the pie stage of the show, but we're going to drop out right now and get ready for our meal. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.